Bad out there for the first day of September. We will see highs reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in a few spots. So then moving on into Tuesday, a bright start across many central and eastern parts of the country, but down towards the far southwest we see another band of rain move in. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, generally giving a fairly wet afternoon across parts of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland continuing to see another day of sunshine and showers, and that unsettled regime continues until the middle of the week with temperatures around average for early September.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight,
knife crime 60% up, and you don't care. Nothing to say?
yes, 2 more men were stabbed in Sadiq Khan's London this weekend. But where is the UK's real knife crime capital? I'm going to reveal all to you. And nearly 60% of 16 and 17-year-olds admit they've stayed off school because of anxiety. Are we raising a generation of snowflakes? And as Ireland heads towards the polls later this year, an Irish archbishop has called for a united Ireland. Is it a recipe for a return to violence? We'll be getting into that shortly. And plus, there is another threat to free speech, isn't there? A disabled child is blocked from a summer camp over the views of their gender-critical parent. And joining me tonight, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the businessman and political activist Adam Brooks. Also, we'll be looking back on the incredible life of the People's Princess, Princess Diana, 28 years after her death.
She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, our political and media liberal elites are spewing deceit that puts you, me and, frankly, British children in danger. All while the truth is buried about the knife crime epidemic ravaging this nation. Within the space of 24 hours, 2 men were brutally stabbed at Oxford Circus tube station, the pulsing heart of our capital. That's a 23-year-old, of course, on Saturday, and a 43-year-old knifed just this morning. The police say the attacks might be linked and released this image of a CCTV of a thug they are hunting. Well, this isn't an anomaly, is it? It's a daily nightmare for Londoners. Sadiq Khan, despite using his taxpayer-funded 300k armoured-plated Range Rover, dared to celebrate a frankly false 19% drop in knife crime back in December 2023. Well, the ONS rightfully slapped him down, pointing to the 40% surge in knife violence since his leadership in 2016. His incompetent reign, in my opinion. The statistics regulator also branded Khan's stats incorrect. Well, the mayor later admitted his error and clarified that it was the level of knife crime amongst young people that had reduced rather than knife crime overall. But I wonder how many people may have been misled by that. But here is Khan, only a few weeks ago, refusing to answer serious questions on knife crime when confronted by Reform councillor Layla Cunningham.
Knife crime, 60% up, and you don't care. Nothing to say? Nothing to say? Nothing to say about knife crime going up? 81,000 phones stolen? Nothing, you don't care?
Yeah, it's not just London, is it? Bristol's knife crime has tripled in a decade, spiking 26% in a single year. And Middlesbrough, well, that has become the knife crime capital of the United Kingdom. It's now a cesspool of violence with 143 knife-related incidents per 100,000 people. In Hemlington, kids as young as 9 are reportedly wielding blades. Buses are said to be pelted with stones, and balaclava-clad dealers allegedly terrorising playgrounds and our children. And nationwide, 55,000 knife crimes in 2024 alone. That's 150 stabbings every single day of the year. Yet 71% of these monsters walk free, and 25% of them are back at it within a year. Meanwhile, mostly harmless citizens are locked up for offensive tweets. To me, and I'm sure many of you, it's become a sick joke. And it's quite the contrast, seeing President Donald Trump clean up Washington, D.C.
And this place was emblematic of it with the crime, the horrible crime. I think now, right now, it's better than it has been in years. Everybody's safe now. Everybody feels safe.
Yeah, well, even the left-leaning Washington mayor had to admit that the president, of course, had reduced crime due to his actions.
We know that we have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings.
Yeah, the president claims he's seen a 45% drop in violent crime within just a couple of weeks of this new action he's taken, all while politicians here believe we're all living in Disneyland. When will these spineless people and their media lapdogs stop shielding criminals and unleash a relentless crackdown on this knife-wielding plague tearing our country apart? Well, I want to get the thoughts of my brilliant panel: former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, businessman and political activist Adam Brooks. Chloe, I'll start with you on this, because you're a young woman in London, and I've lived here my whole life, and I've seen knife crime get worse and worse and worse, and young people are terrified, their parents are terrified, and I feel particularly sorry for young women who are, of course, experiencing far more crime targeted at them than ever before.
Yeah, if I were to have children, I would love to be able to stay in London. I love living here. But the way it's going now, I think I would have no choice but to move away somewhere safer, because it wouldn't be safe at all for kids to roam the streets. And I mean, it's really simple. There need to be consequences for carrying a knife. Yet we see people in broad daylight dancing around with machetes, having duels in the street, and people are just filming it. The police maybe give them a warning if they do get caught, and they get let off. It's not difficult to solve this problem, but Sadiq Khan just doesn't seem interested at all. He's more interested in talking about DEI and Islamophobia.
Yeah, and Bill, I want to get on, because as much as London does trouble me, because I'm a Londoner, but when we look at these figures in Middlesbrough, it's quite shocking, isn't it? Because we don't really think about it outside the capital, because there is obviously more crime here in the capital because we're such a big city, but per capita, it looks more like Middlesbrough is actually suffering the most. And I genuinely put a firm blame on the Tories for this. They were in government 14 years and they left behind massive swathes of the country while they were at it. What have we got to do? You mean you were in government. What have we got to do to solve this crisis?
Well, we've got to take it seriously, and you're right to point out, you know, the simplistic notion that this is all about London and Sadiq Khan is simply not true. There are many towns and cities across the country with higher levels of knife crime. I've said before on this programme that actually overall crime has fallen for over 30 years, but knife crime has gone up by about 80% over the last 10 years, and that is a palpable fear for parents and grandparents, and you need a multifaceted approach. You know, machetes, Chloe, have been banned by this government, along with zombie knives. We need the closing of the online sales loophole that has been there. Tougher penalties with curfews, tagging and detention, but also tackling the root causes, and something the government's committed to doing, to setting up the Young Futures partnerships, bringing together police, schools, the health service, mental health service, youth workers, targeting kids who are at risk of getting involved in knife crime, and fundamentally persuading young people, because this is often at the root cause of it, that they are not safer carrying a knife than would otherwise be the case.
Well, that's a big problem as well, because so many of them, I think it's 57% carry a knife for defensive reasons, which often gets used against them as well. Adam, I saved you for last because you are a knife crime activist yourself, and you've done so much good work on this, Adam. Why don't you take it from here and tell us about your experiences with it?
Look, in 1991, my dad was stabbed to death in our family pub. So knife crime hits home with me. I've got a 16-year-old boy, and I'm petrified of him going out. You know, he's not allowed to go a lot of places. When we look at the deterrence, Bill and Chloe touched on this. Myself and Norman Brennan, a former police officer, set up a petition. We needed 100,000 signatures to get it debated in Parliament about 5-year mandatory sentences for anyone carrying a knife, 3 years for youths. We didn't get enough people sign it. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Look, people put themselves out for certain things, but until it happens to them, they're not passionate like maybe I am. One thing I will say is, look, I've got some stats for London, and the elephant in the room is, and look, I work with a lot from the black community, from boxing to community leaders. They want me to say this. So anyone that tries to paint me as a racist for saying this, facts can't be racist. 45% of London murders with a knife are black individuals. 61% of knife perpetrators in London are black individuals, black men. There is a knife offence every 30 minutes in London. Now, until we address this problem and we increase stop and search, we increase deterrence and scare kids. Now, look, I've always said, if I was an MP, I would make schools educate kids on a prison cell, take them to a closed-down prison, put them in a cell for a minute, just to show them. Let's educate our children at what a life of crime can do. Because I've spent 30-odd years thinking about my dad, you know, not to get emotional here, but it tears families apart. And now I worry for the rest of my life for my child. This is not right. We cannot be a Western democracy in 2025 and worry about our kids going out and getting stabbed or our women getting raped or assaulted. Something has to happen in Britain.
I totally agree. Kari, just to go back to the sort of the politics of this all, because it was Theresa May, when she was Home Secretary, that really sort of weakens the powers of stop and search. And that is a policy which I think is abysmal. I think we should, in terms of stopping it, let me just be clear, that we should be doing far more of that, particularly in areas where there's a high likeliness for a young man to carry a knife. We've got this fear, our politicians have got this fear of being deemed racist, and even though policies like that could save someone's life, the fear of being racist seems to overtake it. Yeah,
woke kills, and this is the clear example of this. All the people who are obsessed with DEI and not upsetting the BAME community or being racist, their ideology is literally killing people, and it's a huge shame. We have to move away from that. We need to make sure that police are not scared of doing stop and search because they're worried about being called racist. And it's not just knife crime, it's, for example, shoplifting, people not being stopped because people think, oh, if I, grab them and stop them until the police come and they happen to be a person of colour, I'm going to get done for some sort of racist attack. We need to just kill this woke ideology because it really is costing lives.
Yeah, Bill, what do you make of that? I mean, I think that there's a good point there about stop and search, which I think I'm very passionate. I think we need to do more of that. I think this is going to save lives, and I think we should put people's feelings aside if it means we can save young people's lives.
Absolutely. I'm a supporter of stop and search. You should use it vigorously because it can have an impact. But Adam's point about, 45% of those who commit knife crime are black, those are Met figures.
No, it's 61%.
Well,
45%.
You said 45.
No, I said 45% of murder victims are black.
Yeah.
I care about all people, not just white,
absolutely,
black or brown.
but put it in context, and I think this focus to try and claim that it's linked to race. 44% of the London population are foreign nationals.
But they're not black. 13% of London population is black.
A significant proportion of them.
That's men and women, Bill.
And
so only about 7% of men, Londoners are black males, and they are committing 61% of knife crime.
I think you should target knife crime wherever it occurs.
And that's in the black community.
Yeah, wherever it occurs. But, one of the things that the last Labour government got really right was Tony Blair's focus on tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. And I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to have tough sentencing. There's already 4-year sentences for carrying a knife. There's
never used.
Yeah, it is used. There's a host of cases where it's used.
Is the problem there, again, we go back to this prisons population issue, because we just cannot put enough people in prisons anymore, can we? We have to let them go.
Let's stop arresting people for online crimes then, and let's police the streets instead of the internet.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. And when I was looking at the figures for this, because I tried to refresh my memory on this, because it always gets worse, unfortunately, these numbers. 25% go on to reoffend. 25% go on to reoffend. That is a really stark figure, and I can't, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember what the figure of how many people go back into prison for this is, but it's shocking.
Recidivism is a huge problem, and it has been for donkey's years. The prison population needs tackling. I mean, if you look at the evidence of those who are sentenced to less than 12 months, it's almost worse than not doing anything, because the level of recidivism. So you tackle it in part in that way, but you need to tackle the root causes. You need to be tough on those who commit knife crime, but you also need to reach out to young people, many of whom are being targeted and misled to get involved in knife crime. And that means you need old-fashioned youth workers, mental health professionals, the health service and the police working together.
Adam, when we talk, because again, I want to get back to Middlesbrough and these parts of England, we just completely forget about them, because of course we're here in the London bubble as well. And I want to keep going back to Middlesbrough, because when I again was doing this research, I was like, it's Middlesbrough, because we always talk about London, don't we? Always, and it is shocking here, it is shocking. But those poor people left behind in Middlesbrough don't even being talked about.
Look, I'm getting that Middlesbrough has some very poor parts, and there's not a lot of opportunities for youngsters there. So, what you'll find is a lot of knife crime is linked to drugs and crime. Now, that would suggest that these young people aren't seeing another way out, and if there is no deterrent, and I'll go back to this with Bill, we need to bypass judges and make it mandatory. So if you are caught with a machete, you get 5 years. No liberal judge or woke court can say there's a suspended sentence. That's what we need.
Yeah, I think that kids need to have consequences for their actions, not just from the police when they do something serious with a knife, but it starts in the classroom and at home. I think we've got soft parenting, teachers being way too soft. I don't think we should go back to the days of kids being hit or anything, but it needs to be much stricter. My school was the kids were feral, they were crazy, no respect for the teachers. School went into special measures because Ofcom forced us to have a new head teacher, and straight away within 2 weeks of a new behavioural policy, all these kids straight in line because there were harsh punishments for misbehaving. It's simple. It's really simple.
I mean, you know, before, because we've got to wrap this up, unfortunately, because brilliant. I could talk about this all evening because I'm really, really passionate about this, and I see how terribly it destroys families. We've got the Home Secretary's got a duty to refugees in this country, and you may argue that's a fair thing to have. Why is there not a duty to protect people from things like knife crime? Why is there not a duty, a legal obligation to get these numbers down? That's what I want to know, and I want our politicians to do far more, and I just don't think they are. I think they're dodging. When Sadiq Khan put up those figures on X, it enraged me, because yes, it might have been a segment in time where those figures were getting slightly down, but the overall figure is up massively. And to then celebrate that, I just felt like it was such a really slap in the face for everyone that's really suffering with this terrible, terrible crimes, particularly knife crimes, just as Adam correctly said, tearing families apart. But anyway, earlier this month, Sadiq Khan has said this. The latest figures show robbery, theft, residential burglary and knife crime are down in London, but there's still a long way to go before I'm satisfied. Backed with record funding from City Hall, the Met is putting high visibility policing at the heart of fighting crime. OK. Well, up next, nearly 60% of 16 and 17-year-olds admit they've stayed off school because of anxiety. Are we raising a generation of snowflakes? I'd love to stay in bed for a bit of anxiety, but anyway, I'm here. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, of course. Time now for our Great British Giveaway. It is our biggest prize to date, worth over 104 grand. You could win a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k, plus a whopping 30k in tax-free cash. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
It's our biggest, greatest Great British giveaway to date. Your chance to win a prize package worth over £104,000.
You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primero motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas, sky view roof lights, and has all the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model.
We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure any adventures in your motorhome are taken in style.
For a chance to win the motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. Well, nearly 6 in 10 teenagers have skipped school because of anxiety. That's according to the most in-depth poll yet of Britain's 16 and 17-year-olds, revealing the toll of COVID lockdowns, endless screen time, and even the rise of online pornography, apparently. Exams top the list of worries. Almost half say they are very worried about school or college. Close behind, finding a job, money troubles, appearance, and, of course, mental health. And the survey reveals something even more troubling. Girls are suffering the most. They report lower life satisfaction, higher anxiety, and a growing sense of having no clear purpose. So, has Gen Z, become the generation of anxiety? Well, we're now joined by the Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marlowe, and Reform UK councillor Harrison Orman-Varty. Maxwell, I'll start with you. You know, these figures are quite shocking. Youth unemployment itself is rising. It's gone up another percentage, I believe, in the last year. But it's, what, triple the national average? Are we headed towards sort of an economic disaster with this next generation if they have too much anxiety to even go to school?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did our own polling at the Adam Smith Institute. We found that over 60% of young people either have or know people who have mental health disorders. It's a serious, serious problem. And plus, you've got the rise of AI. You've got Rachel Reeves's jobs tax as well, and the fact we've got mass immigration coming in and basically overhauling a lot of the low-skilled labour that most young people find themselves in just after graduation. It's a huge, huge problem. It's not just that, though. We've also got a massive housing crisis. Back in the 80s, you'd have a 4-to-1 salary ratio for getting a house. Now it's 11-to-1. We've got a huge housing crisis too, which is really putting pressure on young people. No wonder they're feeling so anxious, so upset, so mentally unwell. And I don't think it's the role of government to intervene here. Let's get this right. Let's get government out of the way. Let's ensure that young people can make their own lives. We see massive entrepreneurship amongst this generation. It's really, really encouraging. But we see too much government and way too much interference in young people's lives that makes them upset, that makes them unhappy, and really does doom that generation.
Yeah, well, Harrison, of course, that's shocking statistics. I know you're not a woman, of course, but 70% of young women, of course, taking a day off for school. Young girls taking a day off for school. 70%, that's an astronomical number. And we always used to think this was young men, really. I think that's the misconception, isn't it, that young men are more likely to be truants and not take and skip school. But it's seemingly that's changing now. Should we be more concerned and should we be thinking and be more considerate about young people, given the things that Maxwell had just described there too?
Absolutely. I mean, look, consideration should be there 100%. But I also do think we need to differentiate between what is someone's bad week or maybe even bad month, to them having depression or, actually diagnosed anxiety. I mean, even Tony Blair and Rishi Sunak were talking about the problems of self-diagnosis and and the impact that has on people. Now, there's lots of reasons why I guess you could be a negative. I mean, I'm sure that there are probably reasons that things that exist now which maybe exacerbate problems that we haven't seen before, for example, like you mentioned, social media. But there's also lots of reasons why young people should be kind of optimistic. For example, the fact that anybody really anywhere can set up a business on their computer. That's something that's never been able to done before. The able to harness artificial intelligence is also a massive opportunity. Sure, there are risks that come with it, 100%, but there are also opportunities. I think it's a case of we need to be able to be a bit more optimistic, because it is a case of we're looking at people who are having a bad day or maybe a bad week and thinking, oh, well, have you got anxiety? And the main problem you have with that is there will be genuine people out there who are screaming out for help, who will have depression and anxiety, and they're not getting the attention that they deserve because it's completely oversubscribed. So I think we need to have a bit of a rethink about what anxiety is and what depression is, because it seems that far too many people are falling into that bracket. You touched on that, exams, right? That's completely normal. That is completely normal to get anxious before an exam. I get that, right? But to brand that these people have anxiety and it being a medical condition, I think is quite inappropriate to those who genuinely do suffer with mental illness.
Yeah, Maxwell, I was looking at some other statistics. There's 250,000 now sort of almost signed off because of physical conditions as well. So we're broadening this was 100K only in 2013. So it's astronomically high now. Obviously, that's only up and to the right, that number. It seems to me that because perhaps of the social media environment that we have given children, this abysmal environment where they're constantly thinking about, am I the most beautiful? Am I the skinniest? Am I the most outspoken person? Am I getting the most followers? That actually we're perpetuating these things. Is it because we've let them loose in an environment which isn't very good conducive to their mental health?
I mean, you could say that. I think it's a misnomer, really, to place the blame on social media in many ways. I mean, when you look back 30 years ago, people still had, Page 3 of the Sun. They still had, Hello Magazine, all these kind of more gossip mags. We saw much more almost nudity in mainstream press and mainstream publications, than even we did on social media nowadays. So I think I would caution against that. I mean, what I would say though is that young people really do feel the strain when it does come to things like going out to earn a salary, raising a family. That's a huge issue. I mean, look at our total fertility rate in the UK. People want to have kids, they can't afford it. People do struggle with things like anxiety in school. We can completely understand that. And having gone through numerous lockdowns for years. I was at university during lockdown. It was absolutely terrible, all the way through to stuff like growing up in the great financial crash. And now in this kind of post-COVID perma-recession, young people find themselves, and they find themselves looking, what's the future going to be like? I mean, the polling we did showed that the majority of young people are pessimistic about the future. And to speak for reform, which of course my, other number on here, is a councillor for, we found that the majority of reform voters want to move towards an authoritarian government to move the state out of the way and get things done in order to increase the livelihoods of young people nowadays. So so I do wonder about these things. It's a strange conundrum we find ourselves in.
It is a bit of an odd one. I mean, hopefully they grow out of that. Harrison, last word to you on this one then. I mean, look, many of the audience will be screaming at the television going, listen, we've just been far too soft on this generation. We have told them everything is a complication, everything is a health issue, and that you need to take time off, and that actually we need to give them an easier ride when actually they need a bit of tough love.
Yeah, look, it's good to be busy. And I think it's when you look at some of the statistics, particularly post-COVID, where maybe some of those people maybe got addicted to wanting furlough money, and maybe they can see it as a route as continuing to get receipts from the government. But if you look at those, for example, at university, where their productivity hours that they're doing, there's a lot of anxiety or depression or feeling that they don't have fulfillment. They're not busy enough. Now, that being said, I'm not writing people off who are busy and stuff like that, but there is fulfillment. There is doing a job, and in exchange for the time you keep, you get a salary. There is something very rewarding about that.
Okay.
And I think, for example, the changes to zero-hour contracts that Labour just removed wouldn't have helped that either. So absolutely, I do agree with what Maxwell's saying, but I completely agree with the point that you just said. It's definitely a term thrown around far too often, and it hurts those who generally have problems.
OK, Maxwell, Harrison, thank you both very much for joining me, gentlemen. I think this debate's going to carry on. I don't think these numbers are going to go anywhere, unfortunately. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But anyway, coming up, it has been 28 years since the tragic death of Princess Diana, and we'll be joined by a royal expert to look back on her incredible life. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, there's still the risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms across central western parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Elsewhere, it should be largely dry and sunny. Largely dry across Madeira, the Canary Islands, but you can see the risk of rain across parts of Spain, Portugal, into France, northern Italy, seeing some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. A few showers possible towards Greece as well, but Turkey largely dry with plenty of sunny spells. Temperatures still in the 30s here, and it remains similar over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, the week ahead is going to remain unsettled for all of us. We'll see further spells of rain and showers, and it generally will be quite breezy. So as we enter the weekend, we've still got this area of low pressure close by, still tightly packed isobars, especially across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, indicating some windy conditions here. And all in all, across many western parts of the UK, we'll see further spells of rain and showers, and the rain potentially turning quite heavy later on across parts of Scotland. We do have a warning coming into force during the early hours across southwestern Scotland, so do take some extra care if you have got some early journeys here. Across the south and east, however, generally dry and clear as we end the night, and for all of us it's a fairly mild one as we start Monday morning. So we do start off still with this area of rain across parts of Scotland. Could give a fairly tricky commute in places. There will be some sunshine across western Scotland, but further showers following on here quite quickly. And really for much of Northern Ireland and Northern England, it is going to be a morning of sunshine and showers. Similar story for Wales and the West Country, but over towards the east of England, we will start off relatively dry with some sunshine, but the cloud will bubble up here as the day goes on. And for most of the UK, really, it's going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of these showers will be quite heavy and potentially thundery with a risk of hail in places, but they'll be still moving through fairly quickly on a fairly brisk wind. In the sunnier moments, it won't feel too bad out there for the first day of September. We will see highs reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in a few spots. So then moving on into Tuesday, a bright start across many central and eastern parts of the country, but down towards the far southwest we see another band of rain move in. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, generally given a fairly wet afternoon across parts of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland continuing to see another day of sunshine and showers, and that unsettled regime continues until the middle of the week with temperatures around average for early September.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
We're now going to be talking about some royal stories, and Tom Bower, royal biographer, is going to join me to talk about this, because also we have got some breaking news here. And I'm just going to read, this is coming in very fresh. I'm just going to read off my laptop. I hope you don't mind. This is Camilla, the Queen, was assaulted as a teenager. And it's an exclusive extract from a book here. We're going to bring more to you on that in just a second. But essentially, she had to fight someone off, I believe, with one of her shoes. So she was assaulted as a young woman. Quite shocking stuff. These are the sorts of insights on the royals you do not normally hear. So Queen Camilla, of course, they're attacked as a teenager. Very interesting. But of course, hopefully Tom Bower can join me in just a moment, and we're going to get into that story. Tom, I think, is coming now. I'm just going to see if I can find a little bit more about this story, because this is really just breaking now, of course. But on top of that, we've also got this big leak. Of course, Boris met Camilla and had some very interesting things to say. But here we go. Let's have a quick read here. So, in June 28, 2008, Boris Johnson, newly elected Mayor of London, been invited to Clarence House to meet the Prince of Wales, Communications Director. Oh, we got Tom. Tom, are you there?
Hi.
Hello, Tom. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm just trying to get into this story about Queen Camilla, because this is going to be very interesting for our audience here. It's a breaking story. I don't know how much you have read about it, but of course, the news is that Queen Camilla, as a teenager, was assaulted. How much information can you potentially share with us on that, Tom?
Well, I'm not quite sure this has never been heard of before. I think she's mentioned it before, but the point about Camilla is that she wasn't a normal royal when she was a teenager. She was a very, very active woman around town and had a huge social life. And so was a great party girl. So to say that she had to fend for herself isn't actually a shocking revelation, in the sense that in those days and even now, she was extraordinarily good looking. She was it's fair to say, quite flirtatious. She had a lot of friendships. And I suppose at one party things got out of hand. But, it's one of the rites of passage of women in those days.
Well, quite, and of course, as you said, Camilla was not, I guess, a royal at the time, and I guess the Queen has many people will love Queen Camilla. Some still have them. We're talking about Diana in just a second, of course, because it is the 28th year since her tragic death. Queen Camilla perhaps is seen negatively by some in Britain, but also by others she's seen as a little bit more normal, a little bit more of a queen of the people in some respects, because she, of course, has, you can see that she's had these moments on caught on camera where she's been laughing and sort of behaving as us all would behave in some situations. And Diana was very much a celebrity, wasn't she? She was very proper, very much a celebrity princess. So things like this perhaps just make her even more normal than many people would have seen her before.
Absolutely. I mean, Diana, of course, was, so to speak, the Virgin Queen, the Virgin Bride, and she did become the Queen of people's hearts. And she was very, very much loved, Diana, by vast numbers of people, whereas Queen Camilla has been pretty controversial in her relationship with the king over the years. And so I think you can't compare the two at all. Diana was a unique woman who attracted vast attention globally and huge admiration and great love. Whereas the Queen Camilla, she clearly has grown in people's estimation over the last few years, but she can't compete with Diana.
Yeah, let me just read to you this extract we've got here. This is from The Times. So this is what The Times are reporting on this story. And I believe these are potentially memoirs from Boris Johnson, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to read and listen at the same time. But what I can see here is this. This is an extract from The Times article. So it says, she was on a train going to Paddington. She was about 16 or 17, and some guy was moving his hand further and further. At that point, Johnson had asked what happened next. This is Boris Johnson, of course, speaking with her. And she replied, "I did what my mother taught me to do. I took off my shoe and I whacked him in the nuts with the heel. She was self-possessed enough when they arrived at Paddington to jump off the train, find a guy in uniform and say, that man just attacked me, and he was apparently arrested. Well, there you have it. So she took off her shoe, a man that was potentially trying to sexually assault her, and she whacked him where the sun doesn't shine, Tom. Quite formidable woman there, perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, she's a toughie. She's a great hunting woman. She's a woman who has had a huge amount of experience in her life, and that I'm pretty sure of that story isn't new. But nevertheless, it's a great story, a great a bit of colour about the Queen, which no other previous Queen, I think, would have told in the same way.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's move on to Diana, of course, because today is the 28th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana, and the entire country mourned after the Princess of Wales was killed, of course, in that tragic crash, that car crash in Paris. She was one of the most popular royals ever, I will dare say. She died, of course, after she died, she was called the People's Princess by then Prime Minister Tony Blair, and I suspect perhaps one of his finer moments too. It was something that he was remembered for, the Prime Minister, very strongly for his incredible taking of the mantle off of the royals at the time, who many people look back on criticism of the Queen and the royal family and say, actually, Tony Blair stepped in and he led the nation in the mourning of the People's Princess.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, it all happened with the royal family up in Balmoral. Obviously, they were taken by surprise completely and didn't know what to do, because, after all, she was no longer going to be the Queen. She was a divorcee and had gone off with Mohammed Fayed and his son Dodi without any protection provided by the government at her request, and so had got into some pretty colourful escapades in the south of France. And I think the royal family was thrown into complete disarray what to do, and didn't realise up in Scotland that in the rest of the country there was a huge outpouring, a tidal wave of unhappiness and misery, and of course great emotional scenes, both in London and elsewhere, when she died, with huge banks of flowers in front of Buckingham Palace, which the Queen and the courtiers were completely unaware of, and it did fall to Tony Blair to remind the royal family that they just had to change their customary ways, that although she wasn't a member of the royal family, nevertheless, the people demanded that they lower the standard over Buckingham Palace and declared days of mourning. And that was a huge wrench from tradition, but vital for the royal family to just recover from the problems that they found themselves in.
Well, Tom Bauer, thank you so much for coming. Royal biographer there. Thank you so much for joining me to share, of course, that breaking story we're talking about there with Queen Camilla, and, of course, your thoughts on the 28th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. Thank you very much for joining me. Bill, you were in Parliament, recently elected at the time, 1997.
Yes.
Is that right? You just become an MP. Labour, of course, at that moment, it's at a height of perhaps popularity. What was that like for you? Because, of course, Tony Blair was... and there's a lot of criticism of Tony Blair. Many people don't like him today, but at that moment in time, he really did lead the nation.
He did, and I remember her death distinctly because I was on holiday in Menorca, flew back on the day of the funeral, and I was astonished by the outpouring of grief and almost the emotional spasm amongst the population. And it is right that, you know, the late Queen and our current King Charles, I think, misjudged the public mood, and it was Tony Blair who persuaded them, you have got to engage on this issue because there's a public outpouring of grief. But I also think that Diana was the first relatable royal. And I'll give you an example of that. I remember the first overseas trip that she and Charles had taken, and they arrived back, I think, on a boat. And the two boys were there waiting for them. And Charles sort of stood there very, you know, steadfastly, and Diana just ran up and hugged them. And I think people could see that, you know, she was a great mother and she was relatable as a human being.
Yeah, I think that she did wonders for the royal family in that period of time then. Adam, can you remember the day that you found out Diana died?
I'll just write that down. I was 17 years old. I remember waking up and hearing my mum visibly upset.
and getting up and thinking, oh no, what's happened here? And yeah, it's a moment you'll never forget. She was clearly a troubled soul, but she was beautiful. And as Bill said, she was probably the only relatable royal that people like us could look at and think, oh, she acts how we act.
That's it.
So it was a sad day. But look, since the Queen has passed, I no longer really follow or support the royal family anymore. I like the Queen because of my nan, and my nan was obsessed with watching all the royal stuff. But I just think it's been a circus ever since.
Yeah, well, I think you might share the feelings of many people on that, Adam. I thought we've got to bring you some breaking news at the moment, as 3 people have been arrested after the latest protest against a hotel being used to house asylum seekers in Epping. 2 men and 1 woman were detained by Essex police after the demonstration this evening. Of course, on Friday, the Court of Appeal overturned the injunction that would have seen asylum seekers evicted from the Bell Hotel in Epping. We'll bring you more on that story when we get it. But coming up, I'm getting to address a very controversial topic. Is it time for a united Ireland? Well, one senior archbishop says it is. It's more of the church poking its nose where it shouldn't be. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News. We'll be getting into more of that just after the break.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Jupiter, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, a prominent archbishop has caused controversy after saying he supports a united Ireland. Well, Archbishop Eamon Martin criticised the Dublin government for not making it a bigger issue. Well, I'm now joined by Kevin Marr, who's the author of A United Ireland and Why Unification is Inevitable and How It Will Come About. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Kevin, because this is quite obviously quite a contentious issue, not just in the south of Ireland, but of course, more importantly, in the north of Ireland, where so much violence occurred as a result, of course, of the breaking of Northern Ireland into two parts. Now, my question to you to start off with this is, a lot of this is down to religion in the first place, right? You've got Protestants and you've got the Catholics. Now a Protestant, a Catholic archbishop's getting sort of involved in this. Is this a dangerous path to go down?
I think that it's worth pointing out at the start that the conflict in Northern Ireland is not at root a religious conflict. It's an ethno-national conflict in terms of people having different allegiances to the jurisdiction that they find themselves in. It's not a case of the IRA trying to convert young Protestants into Catholics or young Protestants trying to convert Catholics into Protestants. It wasn't about that at all. It's about land, it's about power, and it's about the state that you live in beneath your feet. I think that's the key thing to say. So in that respect, Archbishop Eamon Martin, who is the Catholic primate of all Ireland, so he is the head of the Catholic Church across both jurisdictions. So that's the context in which he's speaking about these things today. He's a Derry priest. He's lived his life in Derry and has seen the Troubles up close. And he makes the point in this interview with the Irish Daily Mail today that he's always been, as you would expect from a clergyman, an implacable opponent of political violence throughout his life. But he now feels that we're getting to the point where the conversation, the debate about a united Ireland is becoming much more intense, much more credible. And he believes that the Irish government needs to play a bigger role in being able to shape events, and that he believes that he, as the leader of the Catholic Church in Ireland, along with other clergymen from other denominations as well, have a role to play in being able to shape some of the conversation about some of the key issues that we're going to be looking at over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I question what the role of the church is in all of this. Many people in Northern Ireland will be absolutely up in arms that someone has even decided to get involved in this debate, because, of course, it really does come down to a populist discussion of whether the people of Northern Ireland want to rejoin the people of Southern Ireland. It's not really something that the Dublin government should be getting involved in, is it? It's not their country, and I understand it's their part of their land.
Sorry, just to clarify, that's a complete misreading of the Good Friday Agreement. The Good Friday Agreement is a concordant.
I understand there's a power-sharing arrangement, but it does come down to the Northern Irish people, doesn't it?
And Irish governments as co-guarantors of it. So it is absolutely the business.
Sure, but Northern Ireland is a part of the Northern Ireland is a part of the United Kingdom, and
it's got associate status from the time of the Good Friday Agreement.
Sure,
the Good Friday Agreement
for all intents and purposes,
Northern Ireland is a contested entity. That's the entire basis of the Good Friday Agreement.
But the Northern Irish people are their own state. Hang on, Kevin, hang on. Just let me speak, because I want to ask you a question, OK?
Well, please get your facts right, please.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get you to give me the facts rather than me have to talk over you, OK? So just let me speak for a second so I can get you a question out, Kevin, right? The Northern Irish people have a right to self-determination. Whatever government, whatever treaties have been signed, it surely comes down to them and nobody else.
No, that's completely wrong. The Good Friday Agreement, it's about the people of the island of Ireland have the right to self-determination. It's an absolutely important key point that the Northern Ireland, in a sense, from the time of the Good Friday Agreement, has been put in an antechamber. It's slightly to one side of the UK because there is a guarantee, a legal guarantee, that the British government and the British Parliament have signed on for, that there can be a border poll, a referendum on Northern Ireland's constitutional status when it looks likely, and that's a phraseology in the agreement, when it looks likely that the majority of people in Northern Ireland would vote for change. So that's the tenor of the debate. Now, every opinion poll shows that majority is
Kevin,
getting closer and closer.
I just want to bring somebody. I want to bring somebody in who's in Tony Blair's government here, because I want to utilise what we've got on the panel. Would you like to ask Kevin a question or state a fact?
Well, my reading and understanding of the Good Friday Agreement is that there can be a referendum if a majority of people in Northern Ireland support it. There is no detail on how the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland determines that there is majority support in Northern Ireland, and effectively that was a fudge. And I don't believe that any Secretary of State, Conservative, Labour or Reform for Northern Ireland, would ever determine that there was majority support and therefore commit to a referendum.
Very briefly, Kevin?
Well, that's actually would be illegal because it's a legal responsibility on the Secretary of State and the British government to actually call a referendum.
But there's no detail on how the Secretary of State determines that.
It's not a fudge at all, Bill. It's an international treaty and primary legislation, which
Kevin,
an enormous.
Kevin, I'm so sorry. I have to go to Kevin. I'm at the top of my show. This is a great debate. Let's do this again properly because I would love to have this with you. Thank you so much. Coming up, we've got loads of top stories, breaking news from all the newspapers. I will see you very shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, the week ahead is going to remain unsettled for all of us. We'll see further spells of rain and showers, and it generally will be quite breezy. So as we end the weekend, we've still got this area of low pressure close by, still tightly packed isobars, especially across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, indicating some windy conditions here. And all in all, across many western parts of the UK, we'll see further spells of rain and showers, and the rain potentially turning quite heavy later on across parts of Scotland. We do have a warning coming into force during the early hours across southwestern Scotland, so do take some extra care if you have got some early journeys here. Across the south and east, however, generally dry and clear as we end the night, and for all of us it's a fairly mild one as we start Monday morning. So we do start off still with this area of rain across parts of Scotland. Could give a fairly tricky commute in places. There will be some sunshine across western Scotland, but further showers following on here quite quickly. And really for much of Northern Ireland and Northern England, it is going to be a morning of sunshine and showers. Similar story for Wales and the West Country, but over towards the east of England, we will start off relatively dry with some sunshine, but the cloud will bubble up here as the day goes on. And for most of the UK, really, it's going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of these showers will be quite heavy and potentially thundery with a risk of hail in places, but they'll be still moving through fairly quickly on a fairly brisk wind. In the sunnier moments, it won't feel too bad out there for the first day of September. We will see highs reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in a few spots. So then moving on into Tuesday, a bright start across many central and eastern parts of the country, but down towards the far southwest we see another band of rain move in. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, generally giving a fairly wet afternoon across parts of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland continuing to see another day of sunshine and showers, and that unsettled regime continues until the middle of the week with temperatures around average for early September.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here We do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Breaking tonight. Clashes between protesters and the police across the country today, including Canary Wharf and Epping. That's as Labour insists the rights of asylum seekers trumps locals. And a shock new revelation about Queen Camilla, how a horrifying experience from the past would shape the future Queen.
Not going to increase the taxes that working people pay, their income tax, their national insurance and their VAT.
Yeah, is it an insurmountable challenge for Rachel Reeves now? New polling reveals voters don't want tax raises, surprise, surprise, or even want her to keep her job. Well, joining me for the rest of the show, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the businessman and political activist Adam Brooks. Plus, of course, we'll be looking at the incredible life of Princess Diana 28 years after her death.
She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
All right, before we get into some of that breaking news we were just talking about there, let's just take a look at some of the front pages that have just landed. The Independent are leading with this very, very eye-catching in some ways, blank front page. They say, at the rate journalists are being killed in Gaza, reporting on Israel's war, there will soon be none left to keep you informed. Hashtag protect journalists in Gaza. Hashtag let's reporters into Gaza. And the Metro has also landed, and they're leading with an historic rail revolution. And of course, this is on ScotRail's aims to get thousands out of their cars as Swinney hails the end of peak fares. Interesting stuff on that. A bit more interesting than it sounds perhaps on the trains, because of course we're nationalising them here in the United Kingdom too. All right. Seeing as that, I mean, I don't think most people will find it as interesting as I will, given that I did transport policy at one point in time. We'll move on, because another day and more protests across the country over migrant hotels. At Canary Wharf, anti-asylum protesters and Stand Up to Racism protesters clashed, forcing the police to intervene. Anti-migrant protests, including women, pensioners and at least one child, have been pepper sprayed by police. Police officer was also punched. And in Epping, 3 people have been arrested at protests this evening. It comes, of course, after Education Secretary Bridget Phillotson has this morning suggested the Home Office was right to argue the rights of asylum seekers trumping those of local residents in the town. A Met spokesperson has said this: we're aware other protesters and members of the public may have been affected temporarily by the use of a PAVA, given the density of the crowds in the area. I believe they're referring to that pepper spray there. Let's get the thoughts of my panel: Bill Rammell, Chloe Dobbs, and of course Adam Brooks. Adam, I'll start with you because, of course, you've been at many of these protests. And, you know, what a lot of the clips we see, we were speaking about this during the break, Adam, a lot of the clips we see are people almost in sort of like quite a nice atmosphere, actually. It's people coming together, talking about this difficult issue. But, of course, you know, there's always a few people that might set off a clash, or perhaps even on both sides sometimes.
There was about 1,000 people there today. But just firstly, if it wasn't for citizen journalists, say myself and others, the mainstream media would never have taken up Epping. We've forced that, and GB News, I've got to say, GB News have been fantastic with covering this. But we've made it now a worldwide issue. The world is looking at Epping. Today there was about 1,000 people there, mostly women and children. Obviously, the men of community come out because it's such a sensitive matter. But when I left there about 7 o'clock to come here. They were singing Sweet Caroline. Everyone was in a party atmosphere. The anger against the government now is huge. It's not just the migrant hotels, it's now a government protest too. But I'm also hearing of videos that I've seen that there could have been...
I just want to be really careful, Adam, we don't get you into trouble.
I'm not going to get in trouble, but I'm hearing from people in Epping that police were very heavy-handed.
OK. Well, of course, we'll review anything as it comes in, and we'll, of course, keep you posted on that at home as well. We've got to be careful because arrests have been made, and we don't want to get anyone until we have a legal obligation to report the facts. So we just want to be careful about what we say because we don't want to get Adam or anyone else in trouble on the panel, of course, and we love you on the show. I love what you do as well. Bill, of course, Bridget Phillips, and I want to get some of her comments today because I had a grandmother on yesterday, Dinah. She was absolutely brilliant. She's gone to... It's her first protest ever. And, of course, whether you disagree with people protesting at hotels or not, there is something to be said, and I think Adam's got a point. There's something to be said that there's people up and down the country who feel fed up. They feel their voices aren't being listened to, they feel ignored, they're at their wits' end, they want something to change. And the words of the government, who basically said the rights of asylum seekers trumped those of the local people, is enraged people across the country.
Well, Bridget Phillipson was defending the government's decision to appeal the judgment. And the judgment in the High Court, whenever it was last week, the appeal court made clear was seriously flawed. And what the government was doing was appealing so that it can manage the end of use of hotels for migrants over this Parliament, but to do it in an ordered and managed way. And that is, in my view, the right approach. The alternative is a lack of law and order on our streets and making matters worse by forcing migrants into homes, HMOs, homes of multiple occupation, which I think in many senses are worse. And I'm not going to comment on the what's happened with the arrests today, but I think across the demonstrations there are many, many people who are lawfully protesting, but it is absolutely clear that there's a minority of violent thugs who are attacking the police and attacking local citizens. And look, I live 5 miles from the Bell Hotel, and Adam's right, there are many people legitimately protesting. I also see stuff online from local residents who are fed up to the back teeth about the demonstrations. Men urinating in their gardens after the demonstrations, and real concern about what is happening in their local community.
Yeah, I actually took Kemi Badenot to town on this the other day, and I had a big spat with her on one of the shows in the past week, because I am actually, I'm going to say this, and this is going to upset some people, but, you know, I'm here to tell you what I think as well sometimes, and I'm also concerned about what happens next. If these hotels shut, the government's plan, of course, is to move them into HMOs. I think that is a disaster for this country. I really, really do. I think it will be so much worse than the situation we're in. And I said to Kemi Badenot, I said, you are instructing your councillors, and I'll pass this on to you, Chloe. She's instructing her councillors up and down the country to challenge the hotels. However, I asked her, I said, what are you forcing the government's hand to now put them into HMOs? You started this problem as the Tory party. Now you're making it potentially worse. So my question to everybody, and I understand, and I want the hotel situation to end. If I had it my way, most of them, if not all of them, would be deported. Right? That's my line on this one. I think you need a strong hand in this to end this crisis, but that's not going to happen with this government. Right? HMOs, in my opinion, are worse. Where does this leave the British public?
Well, I'll make 2 points. So, first of all, I do think that the councils are right to try and have these hotels closed because, although it will be chaos trying to figure out where to rehouse these people, I think when the government is put in that situation where it's really hard for them to house all these asylum seekers, they might actually do something to stop the boats turning up in the first place, because if they keep on flooding in, they can't figure out where to house them, they might actually realise this is a serious issue and we need to treat it urgently. The other point I will make is I think it's completely unacceptable for the Home Office to think that planning regulations do not apply to them. The planning rules for hotels say that anybody and everybody must be able to book it. You can't close off the booking system, and people must stay there on a very short-term basis. Now, when Lord Justice Bean granted the appeal, he did not detail why actually they had adhered to planning rules. He simply said ECHR rules, human rights of these asylum seekers trump planning rules and the safety concerns of the asylum seekers. That's crazy to me. What kind of precedent does that set? I mean, surely that basically means any migrant hotel now, they could just build a huge extension and not have to apply for planning permission because human rights are more important. It's one rule for the Home Office and another rule for the rest of us. I'm sure there'll be people watching this who are currently trying to put a little extension on their house who are having havoc with the council, but apparently the rules don't apply to the Home Office.
Well, I think you're absolutely right to call that out, Claire, and I think this is where this enraged feeling of the British public is so overwhelming. They see, and this is where this two-tier justice thing comes from, right? They see one rule for others and a different rule for other people, especially when it comes to the government and politicians in general, that people feel, actually, we are second-class citizens in our own country, Adam, and everyone's got, I have to say, when I spoke to Dina yesterday, she's an incredibly beautiful, fantastic soul who cares about her grandchildren. She cares, and that's what her fear is, Adam.
Look, Bill said there's some local residents that are concerned about the disruption of protests. Let me just tell you now, there's far more that are worried about schoolgirls being followed, harassed, flashed and allegedly being sexually assaulted in Epping than that. I have a young family member that goes to St John's School, which is about 300 metres across the field from the Bell Hotel. Now, the stories I've heard of these migrants really being rude and harassing schoolgirls was a common occurrence in Epping. Now, women, I've got a lady that works for me that drives a convertible car. They tried to get in her car just a few months ago. There is a serious problem in Epping with these migrants misbehaving. Now, people on the left might want to go, no, isolated cases. They're not isolated cases. Epping, women and girls have been harassed over and over again. And that is why people like me have had enough. And I would rather stick up for the women and girls of this country than worry about being labelled far right or racist, because it's nothing about skin colour, it's about disgusting behaviour from these migrants, and something's...
So, Adam, when the net result of your actions is that all those migrants are put into houses of multiple occupation, you're going to be content with that, are you?
No, I'm not going to be content. Then we're going to fight that bill, because what people like me do is we don't just sit back and wait for a problem to get worse. We deal with it head on, and we stand up for the women and children.
No, you incite disorder, Adam.
No, I do not.
That's what you're about.
That's defamation of character. I do not incite violence.
You incite disorder.
But why do you say
Adam has been...
No, you incite disorder by your comments.
Bill, Adam has been posting on his social media with regard to the protest, saying, everyone, we need to keep this peaceful. You've been very clear about that, haven't you?
You're arrogant beyond words, Adam.
Arrogant man. You're saying I incite disorder. I propose peaceful protest.
This is an incredibly divisive issue, and you claim that it's all one-sided and that you speak for all people.
Hundreds of thousands of people, Bill, that I incite disorder.
By your comments and your actions on this show, you do.
Bill, but I've got to challenge you on that. What kind of stuff do you think that Adam said that incites that kind of hatred or violence?
Look, I've sat next to Adam numerous times on this show, and the comments about migrants and the handling of them promotes division.
What? So just saying facts about migrant behaviour and crime statistics, that's inciting disorder.
You're quoting individual examples. Well, you're saying they're facts. You're saying they're facts, Adam. They're your views that you've picked up.
So,
where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for it?
Do the people not deserve to know about migrant crime? Yes or no?
Yes, of course they do.
Right.
And I want to drive down the number of illegal immigrants in this country and the number of asylum seekers who are coming here. But you have to do it practically, and you're not in the business of practical propositions.
Well, I just want to keep our women and our children safe, and your government is not doing that. And that should be their primary concern. We elect representatives of us. You're not representing us. Labour is not representing us. They are going to war with us.
Do you know, Adam, of the 899 people arrested in last year's summer riots, 41% had previously been reported for domestic violence. Are you concerned about that?
I call out domestic violence, and I don't care if they're white, black or black.
Of all those people who were arrested last year.
If you go through my Twitter feed, you'll see that I describe people that rioted last summer as scum. If you want to riot, you deserve to be arrested. If you want to go and attack police or smash up buildings or burn things, you're going to get arrested. So for you to say that I incite disorder is insulting and defamation of character, Bill.
Gents, I just want to bring the audience back to the topic here, because I appreciate tensions are high, and I want to read that breaking news for you again, because, of course, more clashes between protesters on both sides at Canary Wharf and, of course, Epping. Police have intervened. Anti-migrant protesters, including women, pensioners and at least one child, have been supposedly pepper-sprayed by police. A police officer was also punched. And in Epping, 3 people have been arrested at protests this evening. Chloe, I'll bring you back into this, because, you know, and I think what Bill and Adam perhaps actually represent, and maybe you two are sitting there, but we might talk about you in the third person here, is 2 different sides of an argument here. Is that, you know, is this a good characterisation of how many people across the country feel?
I think that people across the country are absolutely furious at the moment, but they should make their voices heard in a peaceful way. And I think the vast majority are. I think what we're seeing this, although there have been some people getting up to no good this summer, the vast majority of people have been protesting peacefully. It's a very different situation to last year. And I think people have learned from last year and seen it's going to tarnish their image if they get up to no good. And look, Bill and Adam will disagree on how we should solve illegal migration, but I follow Adam's social media, and Adam is always saying, we're protesting at 6 p.m. in Epping, but we need to keep it really peaceful, guys. You encourage people to just go and make their voice heard peacefully. And it's people like Adam that have meant that this year things have been quite different, and most people are making their voices heard in a good way. Of course, the media is going to focus on the cases where things have popped off and things have got a little bit disorderly, but most people it's just concerned mums and dads making their voices heard.
Yeah, Adam, I'll pose this to you from an opposing perspective. I'm not saying this is my voice, I just want to give you a different perspective. How would you respond, at least calmly, to people like Bill, who have obviously a very different opinion to you on these things? They say that the migrant hotel protests are unhelpful, that they're actually not doing anything to solve the problem, that actually they're making the situation worse, they're causing divisiveness. Right. How would you respond to that in the calmest way possible, I guess?
I would say that many on the left, and especially Labour MPs, seem to embrace the disruption that's been happening in London for the past 2 years with the Gaza protests. But suddenly, working class people like myself, airing our views outside hotels, which have emanated crime for years, and especially against our women and our girls. Suddenly we're the bad guys. So let me just say now, I've been in Manchester over the weekend. I was stopped by countless people who wanted to talk about Epping, that said they've never protested in their life, that are coming down on trains to suddenly, on the 13th of September, to protest our government. Now, at the end of the day, the Overton window has shifted massively. The majority of people are with us on this. No one wants violence at these protests, and I condemn violence, right? We can do this. It was one of my ideas in the first few protests to get the women up the front and sit down in the road or sit down outside the Bell Hotel, because I realise people like me will always be labelled, but you cannot label good people, good women, nans, granddads, or daughters sitting down protesting this when it's their safety that is at risk, right? Yeah. And their safety is at risk.
And one final, because I want to pose a similar question to Bill in a second, but one final word from you on this one, because of course we also see the reports of people in masks, right, balaclavas, and we see it on both sides. I've seen it today on social media. People on both sides. I'm not going to talk about the particular because I don't want to get into legal trouble.
No.
But what would you say to those people, Adam?
Look, I've said it to people that have turned up on the protests on our side. We win no arguments by covering our faces.
Yeah.
Yes, there are people that are worried about Keir Starmer and this authoritarian sort of rule at the moment that you're just going to get arrested for saying the wrong thing. But we do not win arguments by covering our faces. If you've got nothing to hide, you turn up with your face showing.
Sure.
I do on social media. I've got strong opinions. I put them out there. The people that give me the most trouble online are anonymous accounts.
Always the way.
And they're
Always
cowards.
the way. Always the way.
And so I would just say, if you're going to go to a hotel and protest, do not ruin it for us and cover your faces.
Spot on. And Bill, I want to ask you two similar questions because I think what I'm trying to understand it because I think you both have actually similar sentiments. You're just on different political sides of the spectrum on this one, but you've got similar sentiments, right? What would you say to the people who would say to you, Bill, actually, you know what, the politicians haven't listened. For decades now, they feel they haven't been listened to on immigration. Tories pledged, I'm not saying it's your fault, you're not a Tory, but Tories pledged tens of thousands of migrants. That's now in the millions. They promised they would stop the boats. They didn't stop the boats. The Prime Minister has said, I've stopped the boats, I'll keep the people safe. That's not going well. And they now feel their final resort is to protest and get their voices heard. What would you say to those people?
I think you've got to be straight with people. You've got to say that there is a real determination to reduce the numbers, to tackle illegal immigration, to reduce asylum numbers. But we've got to be straight with people. That will take time.
No, it won't.
But the numbers are going up, Bill.
Let me get Bill's response.
It will take time. I've said many times on this show, the last Labour government dramatically reduced asylum numbers, but it took about 6 or 7 years from start to finish. And look, in terms of protests, I absolutely support the right to protest. You know, I've supported demonstrations, I've been on demonstrations myself, but there's a fundamental line with the use of violence. Yeah. And some of what we've seen on some of the demonstrations is utterly unacceptable. I mean, on Friday, I saw people in masks rioting, kicking a police van, battening a police van. You know, not this case here, but 5 protesters went into a migrant hotel and were then arrested. What were they going into that migrant hotel for? Certainly not peaceful actions.
Yeah, and what would you say, just similar questions, Aaron, what would you say to the people who are covering their faces? And I will make this very clear, it is both sides. There are people, and I think Adam was saying the same thing, there's people who turn up to a peaceful protest, they cause trouble on the anti-migrant side, and there's people on the stand up to racism or the left side who are pro-migrant who turn up with masks on. What would you say to those people, Bill?
I would say on both sides, and there are instances of people putting on balaclavas on both sides, and it's utterly reprehensible. It's wrong. You used a word, Adam, it's cowardly, because people are trying to take violent actions but don't want to get caught for it.
I totally agree.
And it's utterly unacceptable.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Chloe, we'll get some more thoughts from you on this as well after in the next segment. But I totally agree, and I think this is where the common thread between both of you is. Well, you might disagree about a lot of things, but we all can agree there are people showing up to these protests who are doing nothing but causing trouble, and you do not represent anyone on either side of the argument you think you're on. I think you should all go home if you're there to cause trouble. Don't ruin it for peaceful protesters. Don't waste police time and get people into trouble. I think that's something we can all agree on in this panel.
Yeah. And can I just say
very briefly,
one thing?
Really, really briefly.
Greece are arresting illegal migrants. They're detaining and deporting. If you go to Greece, you could be locked up for 5 years.
Yeah.
It can be done. Keir Starmer and this Labour government do not want to do it. We could do the same as Greece. We've decided not to.
All right. Well, look, we're going to talk about this topic, I'm sure, many more times, but we're going to get more of tomorrow's front pages very shortly. Who knows what's in those? But now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win 104 grand, a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k, plus a whopping 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's Hayley Sparks for all the details.
It's our biggest, greatest Great British giveaway to date. Your chance to win a prize package worth over £104,000.
You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primero motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas, sky view roof light, and has all the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model.
We'll also also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure any adventures in your motorhome are taken in style.
For a chance to win the motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, I hope you've all cooled off. I'm starting to cool off a little bit. I'm sitting here and I feel the tension in the room. But I think we're coming up. We've got more reaction to the big breaking news this evening. A man tried to grope Queen Camilla when she was just a teenager, and she fought him off by hitting him in a shoe with her shoe. Try and guess, if you haven't heard already, where she tried to hit him. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're reigning supreme this morning. I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly. Why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's my job. That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, for how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won. It was brilliant.
Would it have been better? I was going to say.
Are you looking at
you know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean,
were they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. You'll have players that will say, "Oh no, I don't think so." And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it.
Yeah, they were of equal footing.
But the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions. And also pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you. They would have been the better side, but it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's get more on that breaking news from just an hour ago. A man, well, this not just happened an hour ago, let me be clear. Actually, this happened a while ago, but the story is this. A man tried to grope Queen Camilla when she was a teenager, and she fought him off by hitting him with a shoe. I haven't said where, because I'm going to let our next guest, Charlotte Griffiths, editor-at-large in the Mail on Sunday. Tell us a little bit more about it. It's on 2 front pages
Yeah, at least.
here. So the Daily Telegraph, the Sun, and I believe the Times will probably run it when we get it, but let's hold our breath and see what happens.
Well, the Sun has used the word ghoulies, but you've invited me to use the word nuts on television.
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So the Queen apparently said to Boris Johnson, I did what my mother... She got sort of nearly attacked on a train many years ago when she was 16. She's 78 now. And she said, I did what my mother taught me. I took off my shoe, I whacked him in the nuts. She used the word nuts. Somehow, it doesn't surprise me that Camilla uses the word nuts.
I was going to say, because the part of the story here is that she said the word nuts to me.
Yeah,
I can't imagine, I can't do her voice, but I can't imagine her actually even saying it.
Well, she's got a bit of a husky voice after many years of... she doesn't smoke anymore. But, you know, this is actually one of the reasons why The Nation has really come around to Camilla, because she is kind of a real person, you know? She's obviously had this very challenging situation. She's recovered from it, but she's never wanted to talk about it in public, even though she has a lot to do with women's crisis centres, Safe Lives, the Washbag Project, but she's never once used that as an opportunity to cite this incident. And I can think of many other royals or royal-adjacent people who might insert themselves into the narrative, but she's never done that, and she's left it to Valentine Lowe to do in this book. But obviously it has informed her decision to be very much involved in kind of women's crisis centres over the years. And after she had this conversation with Boris Johnson, she then opened 2 rape crisis centres with him. He was the Mayor of London at the time. So it just gives you a little insight into the woman that is Camilla and what motivates her. Yeah, and it's really striking the way her public image has been transformed. You go back, I don't know, 20 years, and she was hugely unpopular. She's not that, Bill. I'd say 5, 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a real turnaround. But the other thing about this, the source of this story is Boris Johnson. And I think there's a kind of rule when you're dealing with members of the royal family, you don't reveal private conversations, and he's done it.
He's got form for this, though. He revealed something about the Queen a couple of years ago, and he's obviously spoken to Valentine Lowe a lot and spoken about another incident with the Queen, 2 incidents of meeting King Charles when he was the Prince Charles. And he's made it clear in this same extract that King Charles didn't really take very kindly to him and didn't really like him very much. Yeah. But what he's saying is...
Good judge of character, King.
He's saying Camilla did like me, you know. And actually, I can kind of see how they would get on.
I can see that. Both a little bit rebellious in some respects, aren't they? A little bit outspoken, perhaps, before. I mean, Camilla's very good now. She's perhaps a little bit... I mean, saying things like nuts is not something you would expect every royal to say, you know? But I think this also says something about her as a person. We've obviously seen... I think one of the things that I always remember about Camilla was that they went to somewhere in Africa and they got a giggle over something. There was some noises being made by a group of people there, which, you know, is very un-PC. It's very un-PC, you might say. But I think a lot of us might have sat there and had a little bit of a giggle at it. And I think something about that humanising nature of Camilla is something that makes her so much more popular than she perhaps used to be.
Yeah, and what's so interesting to your point earlier as well, Bill, and to your point then, is that yesterday all the papers were about Diana. Yeah. And now today we've got Camilla's face on all the front pages. And it's so funny to be transported back into an era where you've got Diana one day, Camilla one day. And basically she was hated because everyone felt sorry for Diana. But they never really got to know her as a person. She was just portrayed as this devil. But actually, time has shown that actually she's had a really hard time as well. She was, I think, she was in love with Charles and was told not to marry the person she was in love with.
But that certainly seems to be the case from all the portrayals, at least in things like Netflix, which I know aren't historical accuracy. I'll just make that very clear, because I know people get confused about that stuff. But you know, I think there is definitely some truth to that, and I think clearly they've been together ever since very happily, seemingly.
Why wasn't it acceptable for her to marry Charles before he got together with Diana?
Well, 2 reasons. One, she was a divorcee. And 2, Diana was 19, had never had boyfriends before, if you know what I mean, if you know what I'm getting at.
I
mean, it's sort of old school. I can't really believe that.
Was she a virgin?
Yes, thanks for saying it. I knew Adam I can say nuts on TV.
Diana was a virgin.
That's what we believe.
No, that was apparently, and actually it's covered a little bit in Valentine's book, and that's one of the reasons why Charles was diverted away from Camilla to a Spencer, a daughter of the Spencer family, very, very aristocratic, possibly more posh than the royals at the time.
Indeed, yeah.
And not only that, but being 19, you know, she was a virgin. I mean, it's a real shame, but you know, it's one of the last kind of mistakes mistakes they made.
And a nice sort of segue onto Diana, because it was, in my opinion, please feel free to disagree with me on the panel, by the way, it was my opinion, her death that forced the modernisation of the royal family. It was that moment when we love him or hate him. I know Tony Blair's a very controversial character in this country, to say the least, but this was a moment then that he really stood up and he led the nation. And obviously, the height of his popularity, just won a massive landslide general election. He stepped up where the royal family was seen to be, well, basically unseen.
Yeah, and he coined the People's Princess phrase, actually.
No, Alistair Campbell coined that.
With him, but he said it, didn't he, in the speech? But yeah, very much. Alistair Campbell has claimed that, made it for years. But he dragged the Queen kicking and screaming into modernity, really, after that. She was in hiding, she stayed in Balmoral, and she had to be forced out of there, forced to put the flag at half-mast. And then she chose to bow at the funeral, which was a really big deal, because the Queen obviously doesn't bow for anyone else. And then she addressed the nation. And actually, the family completely modernised from that point onwards. And now you see them bending down to see, you know, to greet children, look them in the eye. That wouldn't have happened before.
And it's interesting, of course, because we talk about like Camilla now being such a person of more like like some of us, I guess, really, a bit more normal. And I think it's because of that Diana moment when she did pass away, so shockingly, so sadly, that the royal family realised actually what made her so powerful was her relatability.
Yeah, it's the things where she didn't follow the rule book that made her relatable and made her lovable. And in that famous BBC interview, she said, no, I don't think I'll ever be the Queen of England because I don't follow the rule book and the establishment won't let me. But the thing is that the people loved her for it. So I think that the royal family learned that if you are more relatable and, for example, you go down, you know, bend down to greet children. I mean, to normal people like us, it seems crazy that there are all these ridiculous protocols and things like that. But it will actually make you more relatable and more likeable.
Why is she called the Queen when she's not the Queen? Because Philip wasn't called the King.
It's the Queen Consulate.
She's the Queen Consort.
Because she's not my Queen. No disrespect, you know. I have to accept that Charles, I don't like Charles, but I have to accept that he's the King, but she's not my Queen.
Well, he very cleverly got the Queen, the late Queen, to acknowledge that that Camilla would be the Queen Consort. So she got the whole nation rallying around the late Queen, because whatever Queen Elizabeth said, we all kind of agreed with. And then, of course, what's happened is over time the consort has just disappeared, which is very clever from Charles, and Charles is very happy with that arrangement.
But a lot of people do not regard her as Queen. You might say people have warmed to her. I haven't, but a lot of people haven't.
Yeah, I don't refer to her as the Queen. I just say
I think your question was about why we would call her a Queen and not Prince Philip as well, right? And it's something to do, and Charlotte, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's something to do with the fact that because it was a male, that she was the heir, and because there was a male, of course, there, it would be very confusing to people that he would become king, and therefore it confused perhaps the royal lineage. So that's why there's a Prince Consort rather than a king. Okay. Sorry, but again, I don't know whether I'm right there. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that is right. That is right, yeah.
Please don't just try and gaslight the nation there.
I can't believe you don't like Camilla. Come on.
If I'm honest, I liked the Queen because my nan liked the Queen. I am a royalist, would never want to get rid of them, but I find them so boring
I'm no fan
and
of Camilla.
unrelatable now. Just stick as figureheads, but I've got no interest anymore.
But your point, Adam, that you know, and I respect your view not liking Camilla, but actually there has been a transformation in the public attitudes. You look at the polling, you know, she's gone from down there to up there.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's just rattle through the front pages again quickly for you, because we haven't seen all of them yet. So let's go start off there with The Sun. Camilla whacked Groper in the Ghoulies. That's a big one there. We've got what we got up next here. The Express. Police told end shop theft sprees now. This is a Daily Express campaign. On top of that, we've got the Telegraph. They're leading, of course, with Queen Camilla. Queen fought off sex attacker, and of course we'll bring you more of those as they drop. Okay, next we'll talk about the disabled young child who was stopped from going to a summer camp because his mum refused to tell the organisers what his pronouns were. And I want to thank Charlotte Griffiths for coming into the studio and joining to talk about all this royal news tonight. A bit of extra stuff we didn't expect. There we go. Thank you, Charlotte. And I'll see you all very shortly.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, the week ahead is going to remain unsettled for all of us. We'll see further spells of rain and showers, and it generally will be quite breezy. So as we enter the weekend, we've still got this area of low pressure close by, still tightly packed isobars, especially across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, indicating some windy conditions here. And all in all, across many western parts of the UK, we'll see further spells of rain and showers, and the rain potentially turning quite heavy later on across parts of Scotland, we do have a warning coming into force during the early hours across southwestern Scotland, so do take some extra care if you have got some early journeys here. Across the south and east, however, generally dry and clear as we end the night, and for all of us it's a fairly mild one as we start Monday morning. So we do start off still with this area of rain across parts of Scotland. Could give a fairly tricky commute in places. There will be some sunshine across western Scotland, but further showers following on here quite quickly. And really for much of Northern Ireland and Northern England, it is going to be a morning of sunshine and showers. Similar story for Wales and the West Country, but over towards the east of England, we will start off relatively dry with some sunshine, but the cloud will bubble up here as the day goes on. And for most of the UK, really, it's going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of these showers will be quite heavy and potentially thundery with a risk of hail in places, but they'll be still moving through fairly quickly on a fairly brisk wind. In the sunnier moments, it won't feel too bad out there for the first day of September. We will see highs reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in a few spots. So then moving on into Tuesday, a bright start across many central and eastern parts of the country, but down towards the far southwest we see another band of rain move in. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, generally given a fairly wet afternoon across parts of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland continuing to see another day of sunshine and showers, and that unsettled regime continues until the middle of the week with temperatures around average for early September.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
A disabled was banned from attending a summer camp because of his mum's gender-critical views. I hate that word, gender-critical views, because I think it's just normal opinions, but here we go. The mother had reportedly questioned why she was being asked to confirm her child's pronouns when she applied for a place at the camp for her child. Well, I'm now joined by the External Affairs Officer at the brilliant Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Connie, thank you so much for coming in tonight. This story is really shocking, and for me, it's shocking on twofold. One, because there seems to be legislation that would protect this woman for having her right to say that she doesn't believe in pronouns and things like that. She just thinks that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. But also, my understanding was that there was employment tribunals about this sort of stuff that basically said what this charity has done is relatively illegal. It's almost like positive discrimination.
It's direct discrimination
Yeah.
against the fact that obviously gender-critical views, as you say, are protected in the Equality Act. But what is so outrageous about this case is that, can you imagine being a mother? You know, this child is severely disabled. Up until recently, he was fed 100% of the time through a tube. And she was having to fill, this is at the end of last year, she was filling out a form, and one of the questions was, what's your child's pronouns? And she wrote, instead of writing pronouns, she just wrote seriously, question mark, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
And then months later, she got a call from one of the directors of the charity being like, can you explain yourself? Why did you write this? And she explained, well, I think it's a bit weird that you're asking for my severely disabled 8-year-old son's pronouns, and I do think that biological sex is real and immutable. And then she got an email moments later saying, yeah, your application has been denied because your views don't align with our inclusive policies. So they've been very clear about it. The mother's got in contact with the FSU. We did a subject access request, which are brilliant, and these places often don't realise how much data they have to give over that they have about you. And yeah, all of the internal communication said it was because her views didn't align with their policy. And now in this Telegraph article, hilariously, this charity has said, oh no, it wasn't to do with her views, it's actually because she was verbally aggressive on the phone, even though they had never mentioned that before. And this is classic. This happened with David Toshak, one of our cases that we're still crowdfunding for at the moment, who was sacked after expressing his gender-critical views. They originally said to him, you do not align with our policies, and then claimed that he was being aggressive. So it's a very common tactic because they know that they're in the wrong.
Yep.
I mean, the other thing that's really concerning about this, if you look at it, the wider picture, it's another example of these so-called progressive people putting ideology before the safety of children. These are kids who need round-the-clock care, and same-sex care is very important. So if they're this uptight about an extreme on pronouns, what happens when a mother of a disabled daughter says, I want only women looking after my child when she needs to be cleaned, for example? Will they say, well, sorry, well, this is a trans woman and women, so, you know, so it's very concerning. The safeguarding aspect of this is very important. It raises other questions. And this charity is funded by BBC Children in Need.
That was what because again, we get to the point here, don't we, and we're like, oh, hang on a second, how much of my money has gone towards this sort of stuff? And, you know, Connie, what really winds me up, and we've got a panel of very opinionated people, so I want to bring them in too, but what really winds me up, Connie, is that, as I think you absolutely nailed on the head, this is a severely disabled child. Surely the charity's primary focus should be that child will have a lovely time at this camp, and it will be a relief, and of course they have to bring their political ideology first, and I cannot fathom a charity who operates or seems to operate in good faith when they put their ideology first. Connie, how are you helping this family?
Well, the mother at the moment isn't minded to take legal action because she doesn't want to, you know, she wants to protect the privacy of her and her son, which is even more devastating about this case because, like you say, this is a child who is being denied the opportunity to encourage, you know, improve his confidence and make new friends. And I also forgot to say, in the same statement that they've said that it's not about her views, they finished the statement by saying, and also there's a trans child on the trip, so we don't want to cause any tension. So at the start they say it's not to do with your views, but also it is to do with your views. So, yeah, it's really bad optics. By the way, the name of the charity is called Over the Wall.
OK. Good to know. Chloe, I'll bring you in because obviously Adam and Bill have had a good row today. So I want you to have a very quick line into Connie, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is just absolutely bonkers. And as you say, Connie, from a safeguarding perspective, this potentially has lots of implications. And this is just so common in the education space. I was once interning on a summer school and they sent round an email to remind the girls of the dress code, which many of the girls were breaking. And the email was titled Dear Ladies. And a bunch of girls who were furious about the fact that we had assumed their genders by putting the Dear Ladies in the email. They went insane. They were like, we're going to ruin the organisation's reputation. You need to put out a statement on your website apologising. The lady that sent the email ended up in tears, making an apology in the hall in tears to these girls. It was just crazy. People are so obsessed about gender, and I'm glad that, you know, common sense is starting to prevail after the Supreme Court decision, but there's still a lot of fighting to do.
Well, final, just very briefly for me, because my director's going to get very angry in a second. Give me a rough idea of how many cases you guys are looking after, just for the scale, so the audience understand.
So since 2020, we've dealt with over 4,500 cases. At the moment, we have the most amount of cases we've ever had in 1 week, so over 300 open cases. And that's just the individual stuff. Obviously, wider scale, we're fighting all this other legislation, everything that the government is trying to do, but also our single largest, biggest category of cases is to do with transgender ideology and pronouns. 20% of all of our cases are in relation to this.
This is absolutely shocking, isn't it? Connie Shaw, thank you so much for coming in to talk about this, because I think Free Speech Union do God's work in this country, whether you're right-wing, left-wing, everyone needs their freedom of speech being protected, and they do not discriminate, funnily enough, do you? So there we go. That was External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Thank you very much again for coming in. A spokesperson for Over the Wall has said this: the decision was not based on the views expressed on a form, but on conduct during a phone call with our clinical director, where she was verbally aggressive and ended the call abruptly. Our decision was influenced by the fact that we had accepted a family with a transgender child for that camp, and considering strong views on gender and her right to express them, we thought it prudent that she did not attend that camp to avoid any potential issues or conflict. OK. Well, coming up, find out... Connie, I know, Connie, sorry. Connie had to sit there and enjoy that. Coming up, find out why the police might finally be clamping down on shoplifting. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. There's still the risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms across central western parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Elsewhere, it should be largely dry and sunny. Largely dry across Madeira, the Canary Islands, but you can see the risk of rain across parts of Spain, Portugal, into France, northern Italy, seeing some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. A few showers possible towards Greece as well, but Turkey largely dry with plenty of sunny spells. Temperatures still in the 30s here, and it remains similar over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Yeah. Chris, let's have a look at, I think, one of my favourite stories this morning. And this is the daughter of the inventor of the Freddo chocolate bar, which we have in front of us. Now, I remember at school these were 10p. 10p, 20p?
You remember them at school?
Yeah.
So we had a discussion in the green room, and I was absolutely hammered.
Are they the same size as the words?
I think they've got smaller, you know.
Of course they have.
Or maybe I've got bigger.
Well,
No,
we have all got
that's-
bigger. You haven't actually got any bigger. You're still tiny. But yeah, they have got smaller. Shrinkflation is a thing.
Is a thing. Yeah.
Depending on where you buy them, you can actually spend £1 for one of these, and they are tiny, weeny, as you can see there. I haven't bitten mine off yet.
18 grams, they're tiny.
The more shocking part of this entire story, Chris Akabusi, is that Chris is the only man on earth.
I've never heard of a Freddo.
What? Who's
I've never heard of a Freddo. I cannot believe. And look, there's no way. And then Dawn was trying to tell me that they were around when I was a kid. Absolutely.
You haven't lived. Eat it now. Open.
There's no way that a Freddo. I don't. You know. And then I was thinking. He says here that Freddo is used as a common yardstick to track inflation. No, it used to be the Mars bar.
No, it's the Freddo.
It used to be the Mars bar.
The humble Freddo.
This is. So what's so special about the Freddo?
Just eat it. It's amazing. Cheers.
Oh, cheers, my dear.
Bing.
Well, Chris, tracking the financial index yesterday,
yes,
I decided to have a Mars bar, and I was able to have 2 of them because they were so small.
Yeah.
So tiny,
absolutely,
and thin.
Absolutely.
A disgrace of what a Mars bar used to be, or an Aztec bar, or a Topic bar, or
yeah, there you go.
Anything, yeah.
But you don't remember Freddo.
No, so
we are the same
wagon
generation.
wheels, curly whirly.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, first of all, let's go straight to the front page of the Daily Express, because it is a good news story, isn't it, here? Well, it's a good news story that at least the Express are doing. They said, police told, end shop theft sprees now. The Daily Express today demands action to halt the shoplifting crisis that is costing stores, get this, more than £2.2 billion a year. We'll be digging into more on that into our late edition, so stay tuned for that one. But I want to bring my panel in to share their good news stories, because lots of good news always happens and we don't always get to it. But Adam, you've got a great story for us. Go on, why don't you tell us then?
Last night I was the corner man in boxing for Joey Essex, someone I've known since he was a youngster, and gets a lot of stick online for being a soft reality star. You know, he gets a lot of abuse, to be fair. And he proved so many people wrong last night. He boxed on Misfits in Manchester, I was there, and 10,000 people were standing up cheering his name. And he won the hearts of so many online, because it was...
Here, we've got some pictures now.
It wasn't just a boxing bout, it was a slugfest where they went at each other for 4 rounds.
Wow.
And they both nearly knocked each other out, and he carried on going. And I'm so proud of him, you know that, because so many people doubt Joey.
And do you know what? I didn't recognise him when the first... Because people were saying, Joey, this is boxing, and I didn't recognise him during the weigh-in, because I saw pictures of the weigh-in as well. And I was like, he looks like a completely different lad, but he looks brilliant, doesn't he?
Let me tell you, his body is just unbelievable. It's like he's been carved out of stone. And he's not a young boy anymore. I think of him as a youngster. He's 34 years of age.
Same age as me.
And
I wish I looked that good, I say that for sure.
There's not many men with bodies like that out there.
No, certainly not.
Look, he just silenced so many doubters. And look, a lot of people attack Misfits Boxing, I box on there, as being sort of all theatre and that. It is a dangerous sport.
It is.
And a lot of people do it for different reasons. He did it, his family are boxers, you know, and he did it to prove that to his family that he can do it. And it's such a lovely story. He was so emotional afterwards. And, yeah, it's just great. I'm really proud.
Oh, I love it. That is a brilliant story. Thanks for that, for sharing those pictures with us as well, Adam. Brilliant stuff. It's so lovely to see someone who, again, completely subverted my expectations of him. There we go. Bill, can you briefly tell us what you've got for us?
Yeah, it's that South Korea has become the latest nation to outlaw smartphones for kids in schools. And this is on the back of some really good research in the Netherlands showing that, you know, if you ban youngsters using phones and social media, students are more sociable and they have increased focus and better academic performance. And I think there's a growing number of nations making these bans, and I think we should follow suit.
Chloe, very briefly for me, as briefly as you possibly can, go on.
There's a retired rugby star, Ed Jackson, who's done the unthinkable. He became a quadriplegic after a awful spinal cord injury, and he's been able to recover, not only recover and walk again, but to be the first to conquer a mountain in Asia.
Wow, that is an incredible achievement.
Amazing story.
Well, I don't think I need to pick any winners, because I think these are all fantastic
However,
stories.
Alex, I just need to tell you, Adam mouthed across the table that he agreed with me. The nation needs to know that.
Let's not have any more slander, but listen, don't go anywhere, because more of this next. Alex Armstrong tonight, the late edition. I promise you, more of the same. Stay tuned. First, it's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, the week ahead is going to remain unsettled for all of us. We'll see further spells of rain and showers, and it generally will be quite breezy. So as we enter the weekend, we've still got this area of low pressure close by, still tightly packed isobars, especially across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, indicating some windy conditions here. And all in all, across many western parts of the UK, we'll see further spells of rain and showers, and the rain potentially turning quite heavy later on across parts of Scotland. We do have a warning coming into force during the early hours across southwestern Scotland, so do take some extra care if you have got some early journeys here. Across the south and east, however, generally dry and clear as we end the night, and for all of us it's a fairly mild one as we start Monday morning. So we do start off still with this area of rain across parts of Scotland. Could give a fairly tricky commute in places. There will be some sunshine across western Scotland, but further showers following on here quite quickly. And really for much of Northern Ireland and Northern England, it is going to be a morning of sunshine and showers. Similar story for Wales and the West Country, but over towards the east of England, we will start off relatively dry with some sunshine, but the cloud will bubble up here as the day goes on. And for most of the UK, really, it's going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of these showers will be quite heavy and potentially thundery with a risk of hail in places, but they'll be still moving through fairly quickly on a fairly brisk wind. In the sunnier moments, it won't feel too bad out there for the first day of September. We will see highs reaching around 21 or 22 degrees in a few spots. So then moving on into Tuesday, a bright start across many central and eastern parts of the country, but down towards the far southwest we see another band of rain move in. Some of this rain will be quite heavy, generally given a fairly wet afternoon across parts of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland continuing to see another day of sunshine and showers, and that unsettled regime continues until the middle of the week with temperatures around average for early September.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the